one, but this movie seems to have sleeper hit written all over it. You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of Unfriended.
Guys, seriously, who posted the video?
It wasn't me.
Well, one of us did.
Who's here?
Lock the door!
Lock your door!
Just hide! Why are you showing this? I didn't mean it! I swear it!
Oh, you swear? Man, what's going on?
What is that? Ken, talk to us!
We spend a lot of our time online these days, from watching content like you are right now to interacting with friends, loved ones, and strangers. On the surface, that's the pitch for this horror film, but it's actually a little more sophisticated than that. First off, we talk all the time here on Beyond the Trailer about how other countries are becoming major players in the global film industry. And the countries flexing some particularly impressive box office muscle are Asia, with China, Japan, and South Korea, Mexico, and Russia. And as these countries contribute more and more to film's bottom line, they are also becoming eager to contribute creatively, and thus Unfriended happens to have Russian roots. It's directed by Levon Gabriadze, a Georgian-Russian actor-director who most recently directed Lucky Trouble with Mila Jovovich and segments in the New Year's Eve movies Yolki 2 and Yolki 3. The first Yolki was directed by Timur Bekmambetov, a major player in the Russian film business who made his Hollywood debut with Wanted, then went on to direct Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and the upcoming Ben-Hur remake. Now he divides his time between Hollywood and Russia and is one of the producers on Unfriended, while the other is horror producer extraordinaire Jason Blum. Blum has a real knack for the horror genre, and while he has a few misses, he's mostly on target, with quite a few bullseyes. I mean, we're talking about the guy who rediscovered James Wan after Wan fell off Hollywood's radar post-Saw. But what makes Unfriended a particularly unique horror film is that it also hopes to show people how vicious online bullying has become. Gabriadze says it was the bullying angle which first attracted him to the project, aghast at how technology has elevated the problem to previously unimaginable levels. 2011 saw the release of the documentary Bully, distributed by the Weinstein Company no less, yet it failed to reach a wide audience. Can a genre film like this make more of an impression? Or will audiences be too busy cowering in fear or laughing to notice?
Do not go and see this movie with your friends. In fact, I'm not quite sure who you can see this movie with. Because if you go with your friends or someone you're romantically involved with, it is a major trust torpedo. And as far as parents go, if you have them, they're never letting you on the internet again. And if you are a parent, you will be terrified every single time your kids go online. Now, speaking of going online, there is a high relatability factor with this film because we've all been there. We've all found ourselves, often late at night, scouring the internet and finding ourselves going down that deep, dark black hole that is browsing the internet. You know, one click leads to another, and eventually you find yourself on a website that you are terrified has given you a computer virus. And I would have to say, actually, Unfriended is the movie version of such a website. And I think I might have gotten a little bit of a virus watching it. And that's because, well, after I'd left the theater, I didn't give it a second thought, instead of like, that was creepy and not entirely successful as a film. But when I went to sleep, I actually found myself suddenly thinking about it again and thinking of other horrific things. I closed my eyes and I was like, whoa, I gotta go to sleep. I have to go to work in the morning, but I'm a little scared. So there are some of you, I'm sure, who would be like, well, then the movie succeeded. And I think in that regard, in terms of creeping me out and being scary, it did succeed. And I have to say, I do applaud the film's ambitions. I applaud that they were bold enough to just really literally just shoot someone's computer screen. In fact, another person at the screening who was a critic's guest very loudly said about 5 minutes into the film, is this the whole movie? Are we really just going to watch a computer screen? Because if that's true, I'm leaving. Although, I have to say, that person never left. So that's very bold. And then also, I do admire them trying to take on bullying, which is indeed a horrible problem these days. But then, while I do applaud their ambitions, I think that in terms of achieving those ambitions, the results are weak. It's especially difficult to really like the film when all the characters in it are so unlikable, like really unlikable. Like that's what I said, that's what I meant about the trust torpedo. I mean, like really across the board, I'm telling you, you really don't like anyone. And I guess maybe in horror films that's kind of important sometimes because you don't feel so bad when they meet a horrible, disgusting demise. But then at the same time, if there's no one that you're rooting for, that's also a problem. And then to say such horrible reveals about characters, it does actually make you question a little bit society because, that's how we interact, online so much. And it gives, I think it plays into our worst fears that, that we're just a few steps away from anarchy. And in that regard, I think that the movie's hoping to kind of be like shock therapy, where it's going to be like, oh, if you're mean on the internet or just a jerk, the karma that comes after you is going to be epic. And I think that it does touch a little bit on this current trend where people feel they can say anything online in a reality show, and that if you just say you're sorry, it's okay. And life doesn't work that way. Sometimes you really can change the way someone feels about you. But I don't think that that's going to be the takeaway from this movie. I think the real takeaway is going to be that in today's day and age, you have to be uber careful about how you behave in public. Because even if you don't take a photo or film it, someone else might, and they might put it online. So I think that's going to be the real message of this movie, although I don't think that's what the filmmakers intended. And also, that's not a very sympathetic message, and so I don't know if that would be a good way to sell the film. And who knows if bullying was just something they tacked on at the end. It certainly seems that it could be that way because it's so inadequately handled in the course of the film. So should you see this movie? Well, if you're a horror fan, I think you might want to go for analytical purposes to see how they handle the online aspects and that they really do just show someone's computer screen. But otherwise, it's just a lot of jump scares, and I know I've seen a lot of you talking lately in your comments that you don't appreciate jump scares. Well, if you're one of those people, you're not going to like this movie because it's just a lot of jump scares with not much, I'd actually say not really any payoff. And finally, if you do go and see the film, who else found it frustrating that Blair, whose computer screen we were looking at, never used hotkeys? It was driving me crazy. I was like, really? Are we going to go to the drop bar for every time you want to copy and paste? I mean, wow. They did comment on that a little bit, her computer, deficit, ability to handle computers. They joked on that a little bit, but I wish that someone had said, please use the hotkeys, because it was a little frustrating. But again, there's the relatability aspect there, and so I guess in some ways the movie did engage me. So that's my review of Unfriended, and since this is largely an experiment, I'd be very curious to hear your own thoughts on the film, so be sure to share them down below, whether you've seen it or not. And if you don't go, why aren't you going? So thank you and it might be because of this review. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to my review. Again, I look forward to discussing the film with you down below, and you can check out some other episodes right now.